Excuse me. Absolutely spoilers. That's the first thing I have to say. Oh, okay. So, is that going to be okay? That far away from volume? Oh,
No idea, to be honest.
look, I have Christmas stormtroopers on, and they're glittery. You see their glittery hats? See my fucking man boobs. Look at that cleavage. So that's the Mandalorian. Is the Mandalorian over? Is that the end? Is there a season 3? I mean, Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, that has been announced as a separate series. So I'm assuming that's separate to any future The Mandalorian, because the Mandalorian story isn't done. Just the arc with the child is over. And
For now.
for now. The arc with the child they intended to tell is over before they realised what huge merchandising revenue he would generate. So they will bring him back. I'm not cynical.
I was thinking more the fact that presumably he'll be back once he's done whatever he needs to do.
And perhaps grown up a little bit or whatever.
Yeah.
Won't be as cute. But so right, let's talk about that whole thing first, right? Because that was the deal, wasn't it? This episode. So the Jedi came for
Phrasing.
Grogu. The Jedi came over Grogu. Well, you know, he never married, so went to live on an island where he basically played with the titties of yaks. So yeah, I was just pissed off that it was Luke. Didn't like that at all. Like, there's loads of people you can bring back that would be more exciting. Luke just, okay. So this is probably what they want, but to me, Luke just raises questions because it's like, well, where was Grogu in, like, the whole setting up, you know, how of the new Jedi Order and the Ben Solo stuff and the pissing off to leave the universe thing and
I have thoughts on that, but I'll let you.
okay. So you saw it was like a Jedi with an X-wing. I was like, oh, I said to him, there's only one Jedi with an X-wing. And then it was a green lightsaber, and then it was the cape, and then it was the no glove, and I was like, we're meant to think this is Luke, and it's not going to be. And then it was, and I was just like, oh, that just brought the whole thing. I just sat there for like 2 or 3 minutes, just genuinely like fucked off and disappointed and pissed off, and like they've just ruined it for me. They've just ruined the entire fucking the vinegar strokes. Have just been. Don't know where I'm going with this.
And then.
Yeah. And then R2 appeared, and I squealed and started crying. Actually cried I'm going again. Cried proper tears. Anyone who knows me knows my deal with R2, right? And this video could just become about that. So I have to try and keep it brief. But my first exposure to Star Wars ever was R2 and Chewbacca, because I went to buy Weebles, because Weebles are what I bought. In fact, still have Weebles. Oh, ow. Oh, God. Then this has become it's become a thing. Look, I've got Weebles over there, just believe me.
He really has.
And I just couldn't reach it, and then it wobbled out of my way. Anyway, so
it didn't fall over.
But it didn't fall down. And they float, some of them. Well, some of the later ones, but that was a whole other marketing campaign. So, yeah, went to the co-op in Luton, the old co-op. Anybody from Luton who watches this will remember the massive old co-op that is now the Galaxy Centre. And the toy bit you could either get to by going through the main store, and you went past, like, weirdly, just like there's a stacked up washing machine is what I remember. And the big wooden staircase that went round. It was very fucking Dynasty. I used to love when I was 14, 15, thinking I was Alexis walking down those after school. And
implying he doesn't get those moments now.
And any staircase that I'm there. But there was you could go every staircase. Not every. I don't do it with our stairs. It's too thin. Maybe the bottom ones. They've got the right balance there. But
I've seen you.
Yeah, all right. Or you could go the other way. Anyway. So I went into the toy thing, which was above the pharmacy. It was quite a large toy department in the old co-op. It's a massive, big department store. and they had those kind of metal racks that, you know, similar ones to which they stacked comics in, the turny ones. Well, this was one of the ones that had the sticky out hooks, so the things were hung on it, and it would always be like, you know, just crappy little toys or whatever. But this one just had loads and loads of these toys I'd never seen. I was completely enamored by the packaging because I hadn't seen anything quite like that before. It was like, you know, as we know, figures are packaged these days, card, bubble, and it was R2 and Chewie, and I'd never heard of Star Wars. I didn't know what they were, but all I had to go on was their names. The other characters on the back you could get, I think it was 9 in the first wave, none of which were on this. It was just R2 Chewie all the way around. And they were 99p each, and I had £1. And I just couldn't. I was, for ages, I was leaning towards the little dustbin robot thing, but also the big, like, cat thing looked as interesting. And I was told because I'd been good, I could have both. And I got both. And that was it. So I just had those two, and I played with them with my Weebles and Disney toys and whatever else I had at the time. But I kind of got R2 because he was short and stumpy. So when the film came out, obviously obsessed like most children were then, it was still R2 I leaned to. And then we used to play Star Wars with my friends in the playground like you do when you're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever. I couldn't run as fast as everybody else. I was short, couldn't be Han, couldn't be Luke. I was always lumbered with R2. It was a thing. And there's way more to it, but that's the kind of brief. So I've just got this massive.
That's the prologue intro chapter bit.
Yeah. It's his fucking story, and this just proves it. This just adds to that. And yeah, so yeah, he appeared, and I just screamed and burst into tears. And it made everything okay, because that's what R2 does. So yeah, the rest of it was good. I enjoyed it. Quite like the robots. They reminded me a lot, interestingly, tying into the same period of my life, the Micronauts, which was weirdly, I think actually in Star Wars Weekly. It was the other comic strip. You had the Star Wars story at the front, games, puzzles, whatever in the middle, and the back 10 pages or whatever. I'm fairly certain for quite a while was Micronauts. The baddie of whom was Baron Karza, and they were either weird little plastic figures that were quite cheap and nasty, or if you got the big deluxe ones, they were bulky figures. And it was Oberon was the goodie, and he was white and red, and Baron Karza was the baddie. Oh, baddie, black and red. But it was all like ball magnetic sockets, so they could take the arms, head, and legs off. And if you bought their horse, you could make centaurs out of them, and you could then take the legs off the horses and put wheels on. So yeah, just Google like Baron Karza. I'm sure you'll find it.
How our generation didn't grow up any more screwed up than it already is, I genuinely don't know sometimes listening to these stories.
They were leaders of armies of robots that became centaurs, sometimes with wheels. You don't get much cooler than that. So yes, I like the rest of it. Like I said, there must be more actual Mandalorian to come, because you've got the whole
Mandalore story itself
and Darksaber. You know, the Darksaber apparently, which appears to share a lot of heritage with the Elder Wand. That's all I kept thinking. Was like, oh, where have I seen this before? Is Voldemort going to come in any minute and try and get the Darksaber off them?
I think the difference with that though is because I think that's why he has his little bit at the end there, is that it is literally, there is no mystical power behind it. It is purely
folklore.
The story. You're not especially for Mandalorian culture, which obviously is very clearly set up as a warrior culture. What are you doing?
I don't know. Does this picture look terrible? Have I turned the quality down and it's crap?
I don't know, but why do you always do this when I'm talking?
Because you're talking, so I've got nothing to say or do, so I start looking at the picture.
And generally like taking over again.
Whose channel is this?
That's fine. I'm done.
No, go on, take your thing.
No, I'm done.
No. Oh, here we go.
yeah, it was a good episode.
No, you said you had other stuff to say about the Mandalorian thing. Genuinely.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Luke makes sense because of the stuff you were saying previously about, you know, it isn't, it's the Mandalorian, it's not about Boba Fett, it's not about this character, that character.
So the whole, they overshadow that theory I had,
yeah.
right?
So it would make sense to have a Jedi, you know, if it was someone like the other fan theory that was going, which was someone like Ezra Bridger, you would almost expect him to kind of stay in the show at that point because he's not attached to a larger story like we know Luke is, like we know Leia is, like we know other Jedis are. I mean, there was that big concern when Ahsoka came back of, oh, is it going to end up being the Ahsoka and Grogu
Mando show?
But of course, the whole point that she then has to go off because she's still looking and is on her personal mission.
And what at the point she's been commissioned for her own series.
Yes. So it made sense for Luke to be the Jedi in that sort of sense because it's basically the whole, we know he's not going to stick around because he is too big for this sort of property. So he has to go. I mean, it sucks that Grogu went as well. But I think that kind of ties in to what you were saying about the, raising of questions, is that it does, but we also don't know how long Grogu is going to be off with Luke. You could basically say that this is what gets Luke into the idea that he can restart the Jedi Order because he trains a Jedi.
Right, okay.
And then obviously presumably Grogu goes off and does whatever
Hey, I
Grogu
can do
does.
this. Let me start a whole school.
Yes, and oops. Bloodbath.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can, I mean, yes, it would have been nice to have someone who perhaps wasn't so tied into the main story, if that's...
Yeah, and also just a bit like the obvious one.
Yeah.
Because as far as we knew, up until they started doing this stuff, he was the only one out there.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And even until they put Ahsoka in it, we didn't think she was there because Rebels stuff that I can't talk about because you haven't seen. But there was no reason. No, it's not that we didn't think she was there. There was no reason to think she would be around at this point necessarily. Because it's been like 20 years since we last know she was established in a timeline anywhere. So until she came back, it was like Luke was the only one. So now we're kind of going, well, there might be more, but it would appear that Luke is the only one we definitely know. So it was almost like it was too big a payoff, too much fan wank. Like, why bring Skywalker back into it? I mean, obviously he has the Skywalker family and, the whole Vader Luke thing, has been the crux of the biggest part of Star Wars for 40 years. Because that's been that series of 9 films. Got to admit, it's starting to get a little bit that it's not going to be the case from here on in.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely. Yeah, I got no issue with that whatsoever. But I mean, I know like a hardcore fan would be, but there was all the expanded universe and there was the books. That was like 25 years or whatever. Yeah, to fans, to man on the street, to the rest of my family who aren't geeks in that way. No, Star Wars was the 9 films. Nothing more.
Which would also tie in then with why they'd bring Luke back, because that's a nod to
It means
exactly
more.
that body of fandom.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just to say that, I mean...
Who wouldn't know the fuck Ezra Bridger was?
And in all fairness,
The
Mandalorian is amazing. It absolutely stands on its own. We've talked about this in other episodes of the reviews, to the extent where the reviews have nearly become as long as the episodes that we're reviewing.
Like this one.
I don't think this one... Actually, what are we up to?
Quarter of an hour.
Oh, it's fine.
We're halfway through an episode.
We've got another half hour yet. But so it absolutely is. The memes about how the show is carrying the Star Wars franchise on its shoulders, that it is single-handedly making up for all of the perceived mistakes of every movie previous, depending on where you sit on the fan base spectrum. So they don't necessarily need to bring in people like Luke or Boba Fett or even Ahsoka Tano, for that matter. But there is equally also that nod to what's gone before, and I think Luke hits that spot perfectly. Oh, keep doing it out. That's lovely.
I am suddenly really warm. What's that heating on? I'll do that after.
It's 21.
Oh, okay.
I turned it down earlier. But yeah, and plus it was actually quite nice to see how they did it.
What do you mean by that?
As in, with the how it looked with the de-aging and all that.
Oh, okay, right. So, yeah.
Given experiences we've had, with other shows in the past, and clearly the technology's come a long way
Since X-Men 3.
Yes, but also it's even come a bit further than it did in Rogue One.
Yeah, because Leia didn't look
100%
great.
Tarkin had a couple of moments where he was a bit uncanny.
He was generally better. It always felt to me they put more money into doing him because he was a bigger part of the film.
Yes.
So it was like, oh, she's only a brief thing at the end. We don't need to spend $4 million less on that. It's fine. And I don't know if it's just that memory plays tricks on you, but when I first saw it on a home release, it was as if they'd gone back and done it a bit better again. I remember thinking at the cinema,
a Star Wars film being touched up in subsequent editions. That's
I know.
unheard of.
Who would do such a thing?
George Lucas.
I've never had a massive deal with that. I've got to say.
Yeah, it's just like, I guess it's just
okay.
Leave them the fuck alone.
Yeah, okay. I will rephrase that. I've never had a massive deal with it. Fine, do what you want with them. That's fine, but don't erase what came before. It's a bit like when you go into a Word document and you can look back at the previous version still
and see the edit history.
And and go back and look at the very first version you did. Just leave it there. So I would still like to see the theatrical 1977 cut of Star Wars. I would like it on my shelf to watch when I wanted to, and I would like it not in some sort of. I mean, there's some brilliant stuff around the internet. There's like despecialized editions and what's the project? Oh, anyway, look it up. It's all out there.
But you shouldn't need to have to do that to watch.
I should be able to pay £30 and just have the set on Blu-ray, and just and I would watch both. This is the thing. I'm never watching the touched up one again, because I liked a lot of. I mean, I can remember being really excited in 1987 when I went to the cinema, and I can remember I was at Cinewell. We had a staff screening of all of them, which I went to obviously, because they were a month apart, and I'd stayed away from. Apart from the trailer we were playing, 'cause it was hard when you weren't there to avoid the fucking trailer. But all the sort of stuff, the fuss on TV, I'd stayed away from. And when the Falcon takes off from Mos Eisley, and you get that brilliant shot looking down into Docky Bay 94, and it rises up and spins around. I just sat back in my chair, and my partner at the time had seen that clip. Or so he said. He was such a fucking fibber. Who knows? Had seen it, and he was like, "Oh, I was waiting for you to see that bit. I knew you'd like it."
I know exactly
I bet he'd never seen it. I bet he'd never seen it.
He absolutely hadn't seen it.
No.
He was lying through his fucking teeth.
Hilarious. But this is the same person who told me one summer, "Oh, you'll love the AbFab Christmas special this year. Madonna's in it." And I was like, "What? Oh my god!" It was on like Richard and Judy or whatever it was in the day. And it was the scene was she was sat at Eddie's kitchen table and blah 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 blah. Never showed up obviously because Madonna has never been in AbFab ever, and I've since seen interviews with Jennifer Saunders where she talks about how much they hounded Madonna to appear and she blanked them. She didn't even say no. She literally ghosted them. So there was never a scene of her sat at that table. That's the person we're talking about. Oh god, ramble. Here we go.
Let's not walk down that particular memory lane.
I could be here all night.
And would be.
Yeah. So special editions. Blah 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 blah. Fucking R2D2. That's it. That's all I need to say about this.